Are we on? We are. All right. Good morning. It's my pleasure to introduce you today to our first speakers of the day. Jesse Meese, Director of Web Strategy for Advent Health, and Jennifer Segalini, Vice President of Strategy for Phase 2. As Director of Web Strategy, Jesse Meese aligns digital marketing efforts with brand engagement and demand generation objectives to create the best online experience for healthcare consumers. Jesse is joined today by Jennifer Segalini from Phase 2. As Vice President of Strategy for Phase 2, Jennifer focuses on crafting the future of digital healthcare. Jennifer brings 15 years of human-centered design expertise to healthcare innovation. Jennifer orchestrates data insights, UX, marketing, and product teams to craft reimagined digital healthcare experiences. Having transformed digital solutions for large healthcare systems like CHOP, Tufts Medicine, Ochsner, Jennifer combines data-driven insights with deep empathy to make healthcare more accessible through technology. Phase 2 is also a sponsor of our Healthcare Summit today, and we thank Phase 2 for their sponsorship. And with that,
thank you, Brooke Lene. I just learned I wasn't saying her last name correctly for like 10 years. Thank you for having us, especially this early, relatively early on a Monday morning. It really means a lot for you all to show up and learn about what we have going on in healthcare. I'm really elated to be here with my partners at Phase 2. This is such a tremendous group. I'm not going to jump in with a bunch of tech talk, so it's going to be a little bit of storytelling here on a Monday, mostly because my brain can't do that yet at this hour. But we're going to talk a little bit about where we've been at Advent Health. And we talked about ourselves. There's us. 5 years ago, Advent Health operated under a bunch of disparate websites. We worked really hard. This is even before my time, because I've been there for a couple years. Worked really hard to bring everything under that same Drupal umbrella, right? Not unlike Georgiana's presentation last year, to bring UCLA under the same umbrella. We've had challenges along the way. We've had major successes along the way, and all along the way, Phase 2 has been there. We've garnered a lot of awards, but after 5 years, that branded experience under that universal brand at Advent Health was really showing its age, right? So we wanted to do a refresh of sorts, a redesign, but we were calling it a refresh, mostly to trick Phase 2 into thinking it wasn't that much work. In order to tell that story, we had to get buy-in, right? I had to go to the markets, I had to go to leadership, really had to understand the perspective of the consumer, knowing the consumer. And to tell that story, we created a persona, Louisa. And her stock photo was on one of our competitors' sites, which I didn't love that, but Louisa's still ours. She's still our persona. And as an example, she's early 50s. She does cardio. She works in tech. She uses her mobile phone. She's on the go. But this story really resonated with everyone as I kind of went on the road and I told the story of why we needed a new website. This is sad, Louisa. This is where I would get on, oh, what happened? Why is she so sad? Well, on the old site, Louisa had more choices than ever on her search experience. She had care paths she was overwhelmed by. She had content that did not match her needs. And focus on that, because that's going to be a key part of our conversation today. She had a disjointed experience on the site versus the app, and her mobile experience wasn't really ideal. This is my homework slide. Just memorize it real quick. There will be a quiz. So, understanding the consumer. We set out to make sure we knew exactly who was on the site, right? No surprises, females, millennials, folks like Louisa, very capable with technology. And then where were they spending their time on the site? What were the key service lines, broken down by age? This is just a very small subset. This is like one slide of probably 50 of a lot of research that we went into the new site, the refresh. We also listened to the consumer, so Medallia being our consumer listening engine. We implemented on the site, I think, early 2024, so we could really listen to some of the comments coming from consumers on the legacy site. We also did user testing. So we put our concepts in front of users to ensure that the things that you'll see here in a moment on design were going to resonate and going to work for them. And getting their feedback on things like, does this build trust? What's your emotional reaction? What do you think about this crazy left-hand navigation? And of course, the feedback on the current site, here's a snapshot of it for those that might remember. It was a little dark, a little basic. People just couldn't find what they're looking for. So, of course, we needed to refresh it. All right, here's the slide I wanted us to focus on. This is the new adventhealth.com. You'll see some things we've done a little bit differently, a little bit of a Netflix throwback left-hand navigation. I don't know what you call it, but users really like that. And this is desktop, of course. You'll see a mobile view here in a moment, but we also have some areas of real estate designated for personalization. Show of hands, how many of you guys on your healthcare websites have personalization today? I see 2 hands. Cool. My slide's relevant, thank goodness. So we're using Marketing Cloud personalization, MCP, or just Salesforce personalization, to now drive our personalized experiences for consumers. And what that means is, in areas like this relevant imagery, right? And we have a target demographic, someone that might look like Louisa in terms of ethnicity or even age. We can even match maybe what the background looks like in the image. If she's based in Tampa, we can ensure that there's a background of palm trees. If she's in our Rocky Mountain region, maybe it's some mountains. So by using some of the information in her session, we can actually power a more personalized experience just to have something that's more resonant with her. The other area you see here, what we're calling targeted content. Different content areas based on identified interests. Awesome, what's that mean? So Louisa may have expressed an affinity for heart care on the site previously. She's checked out a service line for heart. And that's where she's going to get some targeted content in terms of blogs, an article, a location, all powered by MCP, Marketing Cloud Personalization, all on a Drupal website. The one thing I'm going to lean into, and Jen's going to talk about more of, is how AI comes into play here. Because what you see on the screen now is very prescriptive. My team actually goes through and says, this would work well. Hey, what do our analytics say? Is this a really good blog, or no one goes to it, right? So we build campaigns, but it's very directive. And we have a great opportunity leveraging things within MCP and using things like Einstein recipes that are AI-based to start saving us that time in delivering a dynamic, personalized experience without having to be so prescriptive, which is really exciting for us. I mentioned a moment ago a desktop versus mobile. And I want to emphasize again here the importance of parity across the experience. You see on the far left, the live site, the legacy site, and it was dark, and you can see it was radically different from what you see on our account site or the app experience, and then our refresh. So we're trying to get them to be a more congruent experience for consumers, so they feel like, hey, I'm on the same platform, I'm under the same branded experience. And of course, we have Happy Louisa, with her heart content being a consistent top result. She has that mobile experience that we want. The heavy component that we're going to talk about today with personalized content, with events, blogs, interactive video, health assessments. She has an easier path to care. We're building confidence and also loyalty, because as she has a great experience on the site, she finds what she needs. She goes through and does her heart HRA. She finds a provider. She's going to also come to us for other needs. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jen.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much for making Louisa so happy. I'd like everybody to turn off their technical hats for just a second. And I'm going to ask you to put on your patient hats or your caregiver hats. Because it's really important as we think about the future. And what we're about to talk about is what we're calling at phase 2 a concept car. So some of it is getting close to happening, and some of it is a little bit farther away. There's lots of considerations with HIPAA and security and privacy, but the focus is all about making sure that customer experience, that patient experience, and that caregiver experience is more seamless, less friction, and enables them to, and empowers them to manage their care in a much better way. So we decided at phase 2 that we wanted to, really explore what's going to be happening with healthcare websites in the next 2 years, 3 years, like even now, 1 year. I think this week I just sent out an agentic AI to make an appointment for me. So how far is it for us to be making our virtual appointments or any appointments with an agent, an AI agent? So let me show you some concepts. So these are literally concepts for some of the ideas that we have for a concept car. So what if the websites that we have today, the beautiful website that Jesse put together at Advent, looked very different and very simple? How many in this room use AI with their work every day, right? It's a game changer. It's changed our lives. And so imagine now as a patient, as a customer, how this could change your healthcare experience. I'd love for anybody in this room to raise your hand. How many of you have been to a hospital website as a patient or a customer or a caregiver? Raise your hands. Okay. How was that experience? Can you tell me a little bit about it?
I mean, just finding it's easier to go to like an AI like ChatGPT and ask a question and find what I'm looking for than it is to find it on the actual website. Information is so hard to find.
Right. Even knowing that it may not be 100% accurate, we still do it, right?
Yeah.
It gets you like halfway there. It gives you a starting point. Who else?
Finding my own patient information, test results, things of that nature has been painful. But my hospital system that I'm a patient at, New Vance in Connecticut, they have a number of different portals, and it's not clear which one is which. Different logins, different ways of getting your results. Setting an appointment is painful. I just call them. I mean, at this point, the website is useless.
Right. It's amazing in this day and age that calling is the most effective way to make an appointment. And
Well, these guys are 10 years behind everybody else. Other hospitals.
yeah, I mean, Advent is a leader in the space. We know that healthcare systems are very slow to update their tech debt and get their websites up to date. And now, even with like EHRs like Epic, there's still a lot of confusion and poor user experiences. Anybody else have an experience they want to share? Okay, but we get the situation. It's hard. So what if we were to simplify it? That was the question we asked ourselves at phase 2. What if we were to simplify the experience and make it as easy and seamless as possible? And of course, we thought, okay, what if Louisa could just have an Advent GPT and ask her questions and get set up for success? So we thought a little bit about what we do in our everyday lives and what that looks like. How many of you have Apple Watches on? Yep. Anybody use health apps like MyFitnessPal? Mm-hmm. Anybody have a digital scale? Right. So what if all those inputs could be added to your dashboard on your healthcare website? It could not only inform, with your permission of course, your physicians what you're doing, how you're living, what is interesting to you, what's your priorities. It could create a picture for you as a patient of what your healthcare looks like, what your health looks like. So in this example, we put several different elements from personal wearables to digital health apps across what we considered like a personal health dashboard. And here you could see that these inputs sort of paint a picture for a patient of how they're doing with their health. And imagine how that can inform physicians and hospitals. So it's not just a reactive relationship with a healthcare system, right? I don't want to be anywhere near a healthcare system unless I'm sick, right? That nobody wants to be near a healthcare system or a healthcare system website unless they're sick, and then they have to, right? What if it was something that you wanted to engage with because it helped you live a healthier life? All the effort that you put into your own digital tools, your everyday interactions, comes into one place, comes into focus for you and your physician. And if you guys have questions, please, this is a conversation. I'd love for you guys to ask me anything you like about sort of the concepts and how we came up with it. So again, we thought about how when you get to a website, instead of seeing the page talking about the hospital and giving you pay a bill, find your records, make an appointment, what if it was something as simple as this? What do you need to take care of today? Find care. And then what if you could interact with your healthcare provider as simple as this? And we have messaging today, right? But how often do you hear back from your provider or your physician within your apps? Has anybody had a good, have you? What was your experience like?
So I've been pretty lucky with my doctor. Very interactive. She's interested in having partnerships with her patients. And even before they moved to the current portal that they're using, which is through Optum, they still had a really pretty good but crude messaging system. And I can expect to hear from her or from her nurse probably within 4 hours if I message on the portal.
That's great. So quick turnaround. Is it concierge care by chance? Okay. Does anybody here, has anybody opted for a concierge relationship? Can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to go that route for your own care?
Because my local health system was insufferable in their ability to give me information, communicate, answer basic questions. And so I worked for an employer for a period of time that purchased a small One Medical memberships. And it was the first time in decades that I felt like my doctor actually cared to listen to me rather than trying to get me out of their office as quickly as possible.
With One Medical? Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting because that was part of the inputs that we thought about when we were creating this concept car is how can we make concierge care, which is a premium, right, and bring it into the everyday experience of a customer. I had a similar experience with One Medical where it was Christmas and I ended up with pink eye over the holiday. And I couldn't get my provider and I couldn't get anybody to give me just the drops I needed for pink eye. And I ended up on One Medical. I ended up talking to somebody and within 30 minutes, she was on the phone with me, had my prescription ready in an hour, and then she checked up with me 45 minutes later. And that interaction cost me $35. So this was definitely part of the inspiration as we talked to the team and we all use ourselves as guinea pigs on these projects that we do. And we talked to many users over the years and we decided that like, what if your healthcare could, like I said, be more proactive than reactive and more helpful than it is today. Here's another example of the dashboard that we've put together where it lets you sort of, when you looked at Jesse's great screen of that personalized view, imagine if we took it a step further where your health space was really part of your community. Your health was something that you could interact with people who had maybe similar problems or they had like interests, and you can create relationships within that space that helped you with your health, lifestyle, and goals. Does anybody belong to a group that sort of interacts with them that way? It doesn't have to be healthcare related, but that have found community as a way of enhancing your life? It's definitely one of the things that helps with longevity for sure. So we thought it might be really important to incorporate into our concept car as well. As I'm talking, is there anything that you guys have done at Advent that sort of in your interviews with your users that you have found that had was similar to like the community pieces or the concierge pieces?
Yeah, on the community topic, we know that is a core component, not just to the website, but for all of our communities, right? They want community involvement. Even for things like foundations, folks want to see where, their contributions go to and how it's helping their surrounding area. And it's important to have that represented on the website. We're actually having right now kind of a global newsroom, which brings together kind of an amalgamation of all what used to be disjointed, local stories and things that kind of give Advent Health a better presence, but also can be hyper-focused based on personalization, right? So as long as things are tagged appropriately. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yeah, we know community focus is absolutely critical, especially in folks that are getting care and need recovery and support.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when we look at some of the things that Advent has done, like Jesse was talking on their personalization, and we think about what personalization is going to look like in the next year or two with predictive analytics, it could get pretty deep, and that would make it really helpful for users to see themselves in the system rather than it be completely about the system. So we think that might be a great way for that connection and that stickiness to continue. And then also the relationship with the physician, which is super critical, as you mentioned back there, right? When you have a great relationship with your physician and they get you and they have time for you, it makes all the difference in the world. And we've seen that with our users and user interviews. So in a world where we can give permissions to physicians to get access to our data, imagine if when our Louisa has a migraine or she's having an issue and it's showing up in her data from her dashboard, that your physician or nurse practitioner contacts you and says, hey, I saw that you've been having a couple more migraines this week. Let's try this service. Let's try this care. Instead of, again, it being reactive, it being proactive. Healthcare would be very, very different. Now, I know many of you are saying, Jen, our healthcare system in the United States doesn't look anything like this today. But there are certain things that we can do with technology that could move us in the right direction, at the very least. So I'd love to open up the floor if any of you have questions about how we got here, the thinking behind it, what are some of the things you're working on, the problems you're trying to solve. We talk to users every day. We talk to physicians and doctors every day. So I'd love to hear what some of your concerns and questions are. You want to ask Jesse any questions about his solutions at Advent Health? That would be great. Yes?
So much of this looks great. Thank you for presenting. A lot of times, HIPAA really restrains what type of technology we can incorporate in our website between third-party integrations and data analytics and all that. Have you all seen challenges with that, and have you overcome them?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this question. If you didn't ask it, I had Jen staged to ask this question. So, well, y'all did a good job teaming up. So, highly encourage you to consult with your legal teams to make sure that what you're doing is within the guidelines of things like HHS, your safeguarding patient health information, as you just mentioned, PII, personally identifiable information. We're lucky that we have an entire team, CRM and analytics team, that's really helped also, co-own this with our web team. So we have we've really done our homework, making sure that in what you saw, an anonymous experience on the site, that we can still present that dynamic, personalized content without compromising our consumer. It's really important, right? We don't want to break that trust. But at the same time, to Jen's point earlier, we know that when I don't know about you guys, but when I have an opportunity to opt in to get a better experience on a healthcare app, so it'll tell me to do my yearly physical, right? I'm going to do it because it's helpful to me, and they're going to know a little bit more about me, but I'm going to get a better experience, and my health will be better in the long term. So that's really at the core of what we want to do at Advent Health, and it's what these guys have helped us achieve. So great question. Yeah, the short answer is do your homework, know what's legal within AHHS and HIPAA guidelines. You've already seen an example of what we're doing, so you can contact me if you have other questions offline. I'd be happy to entertain them.
Yes, George.
Are you integrating like the wearable data with this community dashboard?
That's the idea. It hasn't been done yet, right? The big challenge for us is the authenticated state, right? Because we have lots of challenges. We have EHRs, especially Epic. They don't want us to mess with that space, but there's definitely an opportunity for us to be able to do that, especially if we think about permissions from the customer and the patient, what that could look like. But we haven't been able to do it yet. We're getting there.
I can't imagine that like the providers themselves, would they even, as part of that care they give to the patients, like, do they even care about the wearable data? I feel like it's like, that's a gap.
Interestingly enough, one of the interviews we've done was with somebody who did bring their data into a cardiologist, and that cardiologist was able to see the story of their health, right? It wasn't just a capture of a blood test, which is usually the scenario, right? For somebody who's looking to maybe, in this case, this was somebody with heart disease, and they were looking to manage their high blood pressure. And so the data was able to tell the story. So I think a lot of it is, what we're looking to do, what physicians are looking to do, what kind of relationship they want to have with their patients. But you're right, for the most part, it isn't considered. There's not a lot of time within that visit to be able to go through all that information, and the data points that are coming to a physician are usually around blood tests. So, yes, Jeff.
So this is like a big thing that I think about a lot because I have like the Oura Ring, I have the watch. They ask you questions like, "Hey, how much do you sleep?" or "How often do you exercise?" I'm like, I have all that data, right? Problem is that it's so granular. They don't have time, right? And clinicians just don't have time. Like a doctor in particular, primary care doctor isn't going to have time to like look at that. So one of our clients, what they do for like we built a digital medicine app, and what they do is they use AI to extract from that huge base of data and summarize for the doctor and be like, boom, this is exactly what's happening over the last 1 year or 6 months in a very quick, summarized fashion. That's, I think, the only way to do it, because otherwise, that's great, but like your physician isn't going to be like, hey, see you went on a walk yesterday, good for you, like that's going to help, So it has to get summarized somehow in a hyper, I think AI is a tool to do that.
Yeah. And to that point, Jeff, on that particular tool, they were looking at, for people who are looking to manage diabetes, they were looking at all the CGM data, the continuous glucose monitor data. So it's not much different than that, right? That's a wearable. Now it's gone outside of the community that's diabetic and into like a lifestyle health thing. So doctors are leveraging data differently. So I think it's moving in that direction. Yes.
Exactly on what you're asking. My question was originally going to be on, where do you draw the line between getting objective information from AI and subjective information? You're pumping in this massive amount of aggregate data and allowing it to summarize it, but how do you trust that it's summarizing it accurately? And what controls do you put in there? How do you know that the physician report you're handing into them is a good summary? Do you have people reviewing it before it gets in front of the doctor? Is that just in the programming and the prompt?
Yeah, in the case of our client, I literally have no idea how they do it, or what the QA is on it or anything like that. But it strikes me as, again, it's kind of a statistics problem, right? Like you've got 1 million data points for like say CGM So the question I think is just is a summary, even if it's accurate, is it helpful, or there out? It's a statistics problem, or there are outliers that are more speak to the physician more than the summarization. And I don't know the answer to that. That's not something I understand, but I understand the problem set, and I think the summarization is helpful, but maybe masking things that they also want to know or see. I don't know.
That's something we want to do right now with the data that we're getting is help, summarize it, aggregate it for the physicians. But I don't know how to put in the control to know that we
Yeah.
trust
You're doing it well.
what
Yeah.
it's saying.
Yeah.
There's another component too, and Jeff kind of represents this pretty well. He has the Oura Ring and probably his watch. He has a lot more data at his disposal, understanding what his health journey looks like, that he can help either validate or speak to his provider about, right? So yes, to the AI. AI is going to help go through all his sleep patterns for the past year. But he also probably has a pretty good idea of, his overall health based on the information that he's getting from wearables as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Just in the same topic of wearables and additional data, I want to call out that there's also that conflict sometimes with the health system and their existing billing models. So there's a famous cardiologist, Dr. Eric Topol, head of cardiology at Cleveland Clinic for a long time. I heard him speak on this of, there's FDA approved like ECG monitors you can wear right on your heart next to your phone, all FDA approved. But there's not a health system in the U.S. that like recommends that because they make $800 to $1,500 on each individual scan. Cardiologists will tell you like more data is better, but they kind of have a billing conflict or like a revenue conflict sometimes that long term the hope is those things work themselves out. But like there are these barriers that exist that I think it's important to like call out of like not ideal for the consumer at the end state. Like they would want more data, the doctor might want more data, but could be this other conflict of is that interfering with revenue and how they make money and how things operate within the health system. So I'm not offering an answer, just calling out like there's real challenges to make it work within the system.
Probably one of the ways they can deal with that is by making the device, the wearable, a prescribed device, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody coming in with their own device, their Apple Watch or whatnot.
Yeah.
In Canada, they're doing that for heart patients, right? You can wear a halter that does a lot of that data collection and will aggregate it and send it off to the cardiologist on a regular basis when you hit a Wi-Fi hotspot. But I think the solution there is making it a prescribed device. Sorry, so that's a good point, Andy, because like even what you were talking about before, Matthew, is like there's resistance in the hospitals against that quick messaging like that because of the billing.
Yeah.
So physicians make no money for responding to those messages. It may be convenient for you, but it's inconvenient for them because that's time they're not putting on things that are revenue generating.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right. It's a systemic problem, not just the technology.
There's also opportunity for disruptors. I love hearing disruptors, right? To as Andy pointed out, the overhead and having a tried and true method. And, I like the fact that my Apple Watch may help me diagnose sleep apnea. Cool. I can take that to my sleep doctor and say, I'm pretty sure I have apnea. Let me get a test now that I need, right? So I love disruptors coming to the market to help the consumer.
Yeah, I think that's right, Jess. It's like, I think that one of the things we've seen is that there's a gap between what we call like health 1.0 or 2.0 and where we're looking in the future, where there's that stronger combination of a lifestyle impact to that data, being more specific for patients about what diet and exercise looks like instead of just, you have diabetes, you need to do better. Here's a pamphlet. go live your life and I'll see you in 3 months, 6 months, in a year. That has to change, right? And this allows for that communication and relationship to build and have more specificity around lifestyle, but it is a disruption point. There's a lot of stuff that isn't working right now with the health systems that would need that to happen, but I do think this is the time for us to start disrupting it. Any other questions? Well, I have some questions for you, Jess, if you have a minute. You have a minute?
You already set up that one question. All right.
My question is for you. You know, this is obviously somewhat aspirational, but looking at where you're going at Advent Health, what are the top 3 priorities for you next when it comes to what you want to do with the digital space?
Well, we've talked a lot about that here. We have a great platform now. The data is coming in for our website overwhelmingly positive, right? Consumers are highly interactive with our navigation. They're finding what they're looking for. The bounce rate's going down, client engagement's going up. They're spending more time on the website in general in their sessions. So we want more of that. We want to ensure that their personalized experiences are relevant, right? So I mentioned during my presentation having an AI-backed component that can potentially, relieve the workload on our end and drive consumers to the content that they need in real time, right? So that's probably our number one. To the point earlier, ensuring that we're still safeguarding our patient health information, right, on the website, and even in an anonymous experience, it has to be safe and trusted. And then I think the third one is the one I mentioned earlier, is connecting with our communities. So we have a huge component right now on our site that is just outreach, right, and ensuring that we're really finding the right messages for the right folks, that they feel a part of their healthcare journey.
That's great. I have one more thing to ask. How do you see content and SEO changing with
AI.
Yeah, with AI.
Yeah, we've already seen it. That was part of my terror in launching a new website with generative AI and SERPs. I had some metrics that were like, man, we want to do a lot more organic growth, and then at the same time, you guys know it's challenging because we have 0-click results, right? You do a search, and you guys are talking about getting your healthcare information right there in Google, and it's generally pretty accurate. Why would I go to adventhealth.com if I can get the information right at my fingertips or right on ChatGPT? So a huge challenge for us in doing our SEO work, but at the heart of it is ensuring that we are authoritative, right? So AI is driven through other authoritative results like Cleveland Clinics and Mayo Clinics, et cetera. So we want to ensure that we're right up there and providing accurate content that's helpful for consumers. That can be, last year when I was with Georgiana, I talked about schema and the importance of having a very robust schema knowledge graph and contextual results that are really going to help you with with SEO and SERPs. So that's all we can do, right? And make sure that we're kind of at the forefront of that.
Is anybody else seeing the impact of AI on their content and search?
So I work at WebMD, right? So we have the systems we work with, but WebMD people, it's impacted, at WebMD.com in a big way, right? One of the things that I think we talk about a lot, and I think it resonates with health systems, is that the I want to know answer is available
How are you managing the AI disruption for your search?
Yeah, I mean, like, one answer, like, day to day, right? Like, things change very quickly, but understanding, specifically with Google, how it understands the query. Like, if one thing that has worked well is in search results, especially for question-based searching, when you see those, like, suggested next questions, go look at the content you want to rank for that term and see, are you addressing those next based questions? Because it's a very clear intent from the AI result of what it expects is related to that query. So that is one little way that we're doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's big changes, right?
Yeah, big changes. Are you able to respond fast enough? Are you seeing positive outcomes from the new disruption? Are you seeing negative? And you just told me how you're trying to address it, but what are you doing to continue to be on top of it?
So for clients, like for health systems that we work with, I'll say mixed bag. Like we have some things that work really well, but clearly I'm trying to compete against the WebMDs, the Cleveland Clinics, Mayo Clinics. Like that's a losing battle, and everyone's losing to almighty Google or OpenAI on that. I want to know space. Um, yeah, for WebMD, it's mostly down. Right, being honest.
Even Google's losing to AI, as we know. It's going to look very different, I think, in another year or 2 years. Anybody else have any other? Yes, tell me.
I'm just curious, how do you feel like you're positioned? Are you already integrating AI into your products? I just have this feeling like OpenAI is partnering directly with Moderna, and they're getting the special treatment, and they know how to use the AI effectively, but everybody else is still kind of scratching their heads, and people are afraid to use it because they don't want to train the LLM. And I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but is anybody actually integrating it with the API yet and using it in their sites?
You're right, there's a lot of caution still, but I think there's starting to be a shift where people are getting more comfortable because they're also understanding how they can do it safely. I think that what we'll see is we have a product that we're working on called Health ICX, where we have a AI roadmap. So we understand that health systems probably have a maturity level that varies from health system to health system. So we go at it that way. We also have a AI jumpstart where we're using AI and Drupal to help with just basic tasks on content and modules. So baby steps, definitely. Yes, did you have a question back there? No? Okay. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
I have a question for Jesse.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy.
How was the new website received? Like when you rolled it out across kind of a very large system, like was it mostly positive?
Yeah.
What questions came up?
Yeah. So that story that I told with Louisa, I think I told that story 50 times to different stakeholders, markets, leaders. So internally, it was well received. It was crickets like the day after launch, which is great because you don't want someone coming to you and saying, what is this new website I didn't hear about, right? So check that box. The other component is consumers, right? We didn't advertise to consumers, there's going to be a new website. Not really. And I mentioned the consumer listening engine, Medallia, which we have on the site, which is a really key component to figuring out how people are responding in real time. So before we had a 3.0 out of 5 on the legacy site, and now we're pushing a 4.0. So definitely well received. And I mentioned we also looked at the data. We use Amplitude, another area of caution, and using Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. We've switched over to Amplitude, and we have really positive numbers there in terms of traction, engagement, as I mentioned, bounce rates going down. So things like that, your overall, ingredients for site health look really positive. But it took a few, I was definitely holding my breath there for a couple weeks, especially at the end of the year, and with so much changing around generative results and just hoping for the best. And fortunately, the great work at Phase 2 and our internal developers, we turned out a really great site, so I'm really happy with it. Thank you for your question, Andy.
Jesse, we've come to the end of our session.
Already?
But I did want to invite anybody, if I see you guys at the floor, if you have any questions for either Jesse or myself, we'd be happy to answer them. But a lot of change happening, obviously, in our field, and exciting change, and hopefully it'll be better for customers and patients as well. So thank you for joining us first thing this morning. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We still have plenty of time for questions here, so go ahead.
Yeah, I have like time. Well, sorry.
This is my first DrupalCon, so I don't know how it works. So we sit here.
Oh, no, you can just go up there. I mean, so it's.
Yeah, mingle.
Yeah. Typically, there would be some questions, but you had a lot of questions in between, so we'll just see. Otherwise, we'll move on. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have a random, like, pie in the sky question. How far away are we from having, like, personalized AI care given to us based on our personal data?
I need more broadly here. But AI, I think agentic AI, I think this is what's going to happen. Just like COVID, right? COVID was the big disruptor that everybody had to move super fast, and they found out that they could move super fast if they really had to, right? So this is happening. Agentic AI is going to happen this year. That means people are, robots going to come to their site and make appointments, and systems have to figure that out and fast. So it's coming.
What organizational change or cultural change obstacles do you see? Physicians not wanting to do it, billing issues, and we'll talk about a little bit of that. There are always factors in here that are not technological.
Yep. Jesse, maybe you have more say. Maybe more for them.
Let me hear the question.
So I was asking about culture change blockers, organizational change blockers that are not technological for adoption of what George was talking about. Are physicians just going to reject it, or
website out of that or channel that experience, because you don't want to give them advice directly on your website, directly from the AI. That's never going to work. It's always like good suggestions. You're not going to want them to go to your website and read something that then they think is authoritative. So you really have to be careful with that. That's probably the number one blocker in using AI is you don't want people to read something slightly off.
Well, the key is with AI, and we use AI at phase 2, and we do use AI to write content, but it always has to be human assisted. That's it. That's the answer.
Well, I think this strikes directly at your point, which is that our interaction, our digital interaction with our consumer has to be about them. That, you know, in the future, nobody's going to go to, Sloan Kettering to read about a condition or Montefiore or whatever, because that information is everywhere. So the hospital is no longer the keeper of that content or the authoritative source of that content, and so that blows away almost the entire content strategy. It's got to be about the relationship with the patient now. Otherwise, there's no point in having a website.
That's right.
So, in the midst of all the doom and gloom on this, I would say that people do still read content from, experts, right? And like this is the same conversation that was going on a decade ago in the publishing industry, right? It's like no one's gonna. Why would you use a newspaper anymore? Everyone can have a website. Now, the Daily Beast is the new New York Times, right? And here we are, and it's 2025, and I still read the New York Times, and I read the Washington Post, and there's a market for somebody to be the legit expert, and I think right now it's WebMD's holding on to their corner of that universe, but an AMA, but it is like it's Cleveland Clinic, it's Mayo Clinic, and that's an authoritative call based on SEO and a little bit of people knowing that they're really smart and really good at what they do. So I don't think we should just like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like I think there's definitely the need for authoritative content to come from health systems. I wouldn't push all my chips in on that bet, right?
We'll take one more.
Okay, I just want to make one comment
Yes.
to what Joe said, which is what we are finding is, and what's going to be successful is if you have quality content.
Yeah.
A lot of systems have very dirty data, old data, out of date. Quality data, quality content is going to keep.
One
All right.
more question, Jeannie?
Sure. We got time for like one more, and then we're gonna have plenty of time to talk more about AI. At our table talk, and this after the break. So we'll be talking a lot about it.
So I've been working with a bunch of PhD scientists just on the side because I've been doing a lot with LangChain and AI and what you can do with it with the API and stuff. And one of the things they're most excited about is unearthing all this content that's like in file cabinets or on hard drives, right? So if you go to Bristol Myers Squibb or all these drug companies, and they've got all these failed studies, and it's just all sitting on a hard drive, and all this data, right? Well, the LLM can do great research in unearthing all of this data that's just kind of sitting in a file cabinet, right? And the same thing with all of your wonderful articles on WebMD, or it does a way better job at unearthing what then they should go read later and helping them as a research assistant to then go to your authoritative content. So I think that's really a wonderful thing. Sometimes my friend is funny. He likes to tell a joke, but some drugs were found just because it's another drug in a failed experiment affected blood pressure, and then that created a drug later on. So if you're able to unearth some of these failed studies even that had these effects, it might lead to things later on. I think it's a great way to unearth all of your content, actually.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Jesse.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Jennifer.
My pleasure.
it'll just be magic. It'll just work fine.
Can you just use this?
Yep.
Sweet.
Should just be able to hook up and it should just present. Whoops. Is this your water? Okay. Yeah, hook her up. Yeah, it's like right there.
Let's extend.
One of these on? No, that's not one on.
Is it Hyatt meeting?
Oh, you're not even. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Okay. It is my pleasure to introduce Chris Perry, a senior consultant at Slalom. Chris specializes in Drupal architecture, backend development, and automation. With over 15 years of experience spanning Drupal 6 to the present, he has led enterprise projects spanning several industries, including healthcare, higher education, and events. A strong advocate for open source, he is passionate about leveraging AI and to improve experiences across the board, from end users to developers and site editors, streamlining workflows and enhancing efficiency. Now, from a personal note, Chris and I work together and with our wonderful partner, UCLA Health, so he'll be talking a little bit about what we're looking here for them. I'm thrilled to have him as part of the team and to be able to work with him. So
much. Awesome. Thank you, Jeannie. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Chris Perry, as my wonderful introduction just told you. Today I'm going to be demoing a few easy no-code solutions that leverage AI to improve the site editor experience on your Drupal site. So let me figure out how to use a computer. Here we go. There we go. All right, about me, real quick. So senior consultant at Slalom, as Jeannie mentioned. Been developing Drupal solutions for over 15 years. Been building solutions for our client, UCLA Health, for about 3 years. When I'm not coding, I enjoy hiking, as pictured here with the pup. I do like making music, composing, producing, playing music. And then I have a beautiful wife, Dana, who I love very much. She's back in Philly right now watching the dogs, so thanks, Dana, for doing that. Okay, so first of all, I want to just kind of address the question, like, why we're focusing on the editorial experience in the first place. So basically, 2 reasons represented by these images here. So image on the left, large amount of content. Image on the right, large amount of editorial users. So in our initial conversations with UCLA Health about integrating AI, our first step was to identify some use cases that could deliver meaningful impact. Oh, sorry about that. So while our brainstorming process produced a long list, we ultimately chose to focus on enhancing the editorial experience as a starting point. So not only does it improve the workflow for content editors, but it also indirectly benefits the end user by allowing content teams to spend less time on repetitive tasks and more time creating high-quality content. So additionally, this use case comes with fewer data privacy concerns, since the only data that's being used, like being sent to the LLMs, is already publicly available on our website. And given the scale of UCLAHealth.org, this focus area kind of provides a solid foundation for gradually expanding the AI-driven features in the future. Okay, so once we decided to focus on improving the editorial experience, we landed on 3 initial use cases that would be simple to implement but deliver a lot of value. So first bullet point here, we've got the alt text and captions for images being generated by AI. So that obviously helps a lot with accessibility. We also have AI-generated meta tags. This automates a task that can sometimes be skipped by content editors, or if it's not skipped, they can be maybe a little bit inconsistent with the metadata that's being input. So this is good for SEO. And then finally, we're going to use AI to suggest some taxonomy terms for content tagging, which keeps things just better organized and makes it easier for users to discover related content. So I just wanted to briefly touch on AI infrastructure. This was like a big topic that came up when we started working with UCLA Health on this. So what is AI infrastructure? It's just essentially the combo of software and hardware that enable your Drupal site to send requests to an LLM and receive responses back. So when it comes to AI infrastructure, we considered a few different options, each with trade-offs kind of outlined in the bullet points there: customization, maintenance, scalability, and security. And we kind of landed on 3 main categories of infrastructure we were choosing between. So the first being making direct calls to public APIs like OpenAI. Second being kind of the opposite of that, which is self-hosting. And then the third is kind of like a middle ground, which is serverless AI inference platforms. And we're going to talk just a bit about all of those. So public API, this is what we're going to use for the demo today. It's the easiest to set up. But kind of the main thing to keep in mind as far as the cons go is you just have no control over the data. You're beaming up all of your data to this public API. They can kind of use it in any way they want. They can store it. They can do all kinds of things with it. So in the healthcare space, this is obviously not ideal. So on the other end of the spectrum, we've got self-hosted AI here represented by Llama and Hugging Face Transformers. So these are customizable. You do have complete control of your data because you've got infrastructure that you own. It's a server that is running this program, either Transformers or Llama. So you're not beaming up data anywhere, which is ideal in that respect. But under the cons here, obviously it's high maintenance. You're going to need a team to run these servers. It's not very scalable. It's not cloud-based. So, and there's also going to be a higher upfront cost associated. So the middle ground is a serverless AI inference platform. One of these is Azure OpenAI, which is what we ended up going with for the UCLA Health project. So a serverless AI inference platform is a cloud-based service that allows you to run AI models without managing the underlying infrastructure. So basically, you don't have to install anything, you don't have to host anything, you don't have to worry about the scalability of the model. So yeah, this has some nice pros. Pay-as-you-go pricing kind of allows you to, determine based on your usage how much you're paying. Minimal management. It is highly scalable because it exists in the cloud. And it's reliable and production ready. It's backed by service level agreements, robust infrastructure, all that good stuff. Under the cons, there can still be some data privacy concerns depending on which platform you end up going with. I know like HIPAA compliance is a big thing, which is covered by Azure OpenAI, but yeah, just have to worry about which vendor you're choosing there. So vendor lock-in, switching providers can kind of be complicated if you deeply build your solutions into a given ecosystem. This one's not really that bad of a con, but the limited model transparency just kind of means like limited availability to customize the model that you're using. So depending on your use case, you might need to more heavily customize the actual model instead of just the prompt, which this can kind of be limited with an inference platform. And then the cost can scale quickly depending on, you know, if you've got like a public-facing chatbot, all of your user base is using this, sending lots of requests, or maybe you're updating like a lot of content at once in a bulk operation. You just have to make sure that your usage aligns with your budget. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about infrastructure. Now that we've kind of looked at some of the infrastructure options, the next step is putting that infrastructure to work. So let's shift gears and walk through how to kind of start developing AI-powered features in Drupal just on your local machine using tools that many of you are probably already familiar with. So first of all, and we'll get to this in the demo here in the next slide, but we're going to install the AI ecosystem of modules, and then we're going to have to set up a provider to actually talk to the model. And then to facilitate setting up the provider, we're going to set up an API key with the key module. Okay, and now I'm going to sloppily change what's on the screen here. True to my word.
It's hard to see over there too.
Yeah. And it's like if I don't drag it all the way, it's not going to go. Okay, sweet. And now I'm going to have to just read over here the entire time. This will be great. Okay, so this is the project page for the AI module, which is really a set of modules. So this is kind of the foundation for what we're going to be building everything on today. As you can see, there's like a lot of submodules here. It's kind of out of scope of the demo to get into all this, but there's just an ocean of possibility. So what I do want to talk about is the AI providers. So these are the ones that are supported out of the box by AI module. And the one that we're going to be looking at today is OpenAI. So let's take a look at that project page. So once you've installed the AI module, you've got a set of provider modules that you can install. You can have multiple providers if you want, but for the demo today, we're just going to use OpenAI. So really the only purpose of this module is just to facilitate the connection to OpenAI. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so hard. Okay.
You can mirror it. You want to mirror your desktop video.
That would be great. Do you know how to do that, Jeannie? Okay, provider settings, great. Let's go here. OpenAI. Oh, appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't remember.
If you go to displays in the upper right.
Okay. Where's your?
You're going to have to come left first.
Oh,
you're on the
yeah.
other
Okay.
screen.
There we go. Displays is this one.
Yeah.
Mirror. This is mirror. No.
I think because I extended it,
Yeah.
I don't know if we have that
Oh,
option.
mirror here. Let's see. It's not letting us click on that display. All right. I think I did this. How did I do this? Okay.
I can probably get through it.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Thank you for trying. Okay, so we're looking at the OpenAI provider config. You can see there's really just one thing to configure here, which is your key. And you do this in key module. All you're storing is just the API key and the API secret. So if we go over here to system, oh no, system, keys. You can see I've just got this one key set up here. I'm not going to go too deep into how to set up the key, but I will mention, so this provider here of environment, you can store your key either in config, which would be in the Drupal database. You can store it in a file, or you can do what I did, which is use an environment variable. That's what I would suggest for a hosted environment especially, because you're keeping that information out of the public eye. All right, and then once we've got the provider set up, let's take a look at just the basic settings for the AI module. So you can see we've got all these different kind of scenarios here. And for each one, you can choose a separate model. When I configured the OpenAI provider, this was all set up by default. So I mean, the main thing is just like what you're using for chat, but there's embeddings, audio to image, like there's all kinds of use cases that are supported. Command plus, sure. Better? Awesome. Okie doke. So now let's actually take a look at one more contrib module that's going to be used on top of the AI module for our first use case. So this is the AI image alt text module, and it does exactly what this image says that it does. It adds this generate with AI button to your media item upload form and allows for auto-generated alt tags, which is super useful. So over here is this is the settings for the AI image alt text. So all I did was just enable the module, and so you can see up here the main setting is your prompt. This is what shipped with the contrib module. I didn't change it at all. It works pretty well, but you can change it, to your heart's desire. Make sure you're focusing on the right audience. Make sure you're focusing on the right content here. We've got language name being used. All right, aside from the prompt, you've got the image style, and AI image alt text comes with an image style that I would suggest using. It's what I'm using for this demo. You can see that they don't recommend using the original image, even though that would be a lot more detail. Sometimes, depending on your AI provider, you might not get a response back if your image is too large. So I would suggest just using the one that comes with it, or you could use thumbnail or some other smaller file size for your image. And then you can choose the model to use. And then there is this auto-generate on upload, which we have switched off. This just means we're going to use a button to generate the alt tag instead of have it just when you save your media entity automatically set it. Okay, so let's do something. Let's add a new media item. Let's add an image. Okay, we'll do, I don't know, foods. Okay, so you can see the module has provided this button, generate with AI. If we go ahead and click that. All right, we got a variety of fresh vegetables, eggs, salmon, beef, and oil arranged on a dark background. So pretty boilerplate. Again, you could change the prompt if you have certain things that you want to call out about your images, or if you have a specific amount of characters you want to stay under, characters you don't want to use, stuff like that. All right, so pretty simple. It's just out of the box, enable a module. You have the ability to automatically generate alt text for your images, and kind of reduces some of the cognitive load for the editors that would normally have to analyze the image and come up with this and manually type it in. All right, so let's go ahead and save this media item. We can kind of start to take a look at the next phase of the demo. All right, let's re-edit the same media item. And you can see down here, we've got this caption field that I did not edit, but when we saved the media item, it automatically got this value, and I'm going to try to read it. In the luscious tapestry of nature's bounty, we find a celebration of independence, vibrant vegetables, succulent salmon, rich beef, nourished by the hidden dance of growth, each element a reminder that life thrives in harmony, bound together by the unseen currents of existence. And I've got an explanation for why we got such a ridiculous caption there. So let's take a look at how this works. So this works with AI automators, and that just leverages Drupal's field UI. So you're probably already used to this. Let's look at media types. Okay, image. So sorry about my mousing abilities. Oh wait, sorry, not image. We need to manage fields. There we go. So managing fields for image, we've got our caption field. Okay, so just normal config page for a field here, but at the bottom, we've got this extra section. So we've enabled an AI automator for this field, and this can be done on any field, or most any field. I don't want to say any field, but it supports a ton of field types. So with that enabled, we get a bunch of extra config. So we've got, just out of the box, this is a text field. We've got 2 different automators that we could use for this. We're using just the regular text. We've got the input mode. So base mode here just means that we're gonna target one field, and that one field is gonna be sent to the LLM to get a response back. But I'm using the advanced mode because then we can send multiple fields, and we can just be more specific in our prompt. So I'm saying here, generate a concise, natural-sounding caption describing the key elements of the media entity's image in a way that's useful for a general audience, but in character as Alan Watts, who, if you guys don't know, is from like the 60s. He's a philosopher. So that's why we got kind of a hippy-dippy caption. But it did still have to do with the content. It's pretty cool, actually. But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to say let's try to transmit some of his philosophical insight as part of the caption, which I feel like it did pretty well. Okay, so I mean, that's basically how you use an automator. We can look at one other field type maybe. So if we look at content types, comment types, I can't read because I'm over here. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, so if we look, I believe, at basic page, we've got a meta tags field, so completely different field type. We've enabled an automator for that. And this has a way more config available for it. But specifically, I just wanted to call out how to set the title up. So I'm saying, hey, let's make sure that we're using the Drupal site name. Let's make sure we're using the page title. Let's make sure that they're separated by a pipe character. And then we give it the node title. And then we also give it the node body as a token. And then I'm not going to get into this because there's so many fields. I just kind of wanted to show one thing here, which is the worker. So this is set to direct, so that just means the LLM call is made when you actually save the entity. But there's also like this batch mode, a queue mode, and then we're also going to talk in the third example about how to use this with ECA. Then you can set up the model, and then this has a ton of configuration for like each of the individual data points in the meta tag field. So you can have like a different sub prompt for each one. So it gets pretty crazy. Okay, so now let's maybe look at a basic page. Let's go here, and let's create one. Create a basic page. Just gonna call this About Us. And then I've got some text here that I can paste in. So I just I think I used AI to generate this boilerplate text for an About Us page. Get rid of that. Okay, so we can see over here in meta tags, just the field defaults, and then nothing for abstract, nothing for keywords. A bunch of this is just not filled out. So let's go ahead and just save this page. Okay, we've got our About Us page with our content. If we re-edit, look at meta tags. All right, we've got our uncapitalized page title. We've got the name of the website. We've got an automated description. We've got an abstract. We've got keywords. Okay, so that's just kind of the basic use of automators. But we can kind of take this one step further. I mean, this is good, right? This is super powerful on its own. But it kind of lacks in customizability and management. You have to set up a different automator for each field. It can kind of get to be a little bit much. So let's look at another option using ECA, right? So this is going to be a more complex workflow. where we're going to be saving multiple fields at once, and then we're going to be even filling out one field without using an automator at all, just straight from ECA. We're going to make the LLM call. And then we're also going to enable a switch that you can switch on and off for the editor to be able to say, yes, I want to generate AI content for my fields, or no, I don't, instead of just having it generated on save. Okay, let's go here. Add one more piece of content, an article. I'm just going to call it test article. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the image that just ships with the article content type in Drupal. You can see we've got this generate with AI switch, which I just added as just a stock Boolean field. We're not going to mess with that just yet. We've got the body field, and then we've got, this is kind of representative of sort of what we see on UCLA Health. On UCLA Health, we even have more types of taxonomy than this on a given article, but I'm just going to add 2 fields here to kind of represent that. So we've got a categories vocabulary and a concepts vocabulary. And then down here, I've got just an AI summary field. Okay, let me grab my, my test text real quick. Throw this in the body. Okay, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to switch on generate with AI. I'm just going to save it. All right, so we've got our article, which I did actually pull from the UCLA Health site. So let's edit again. This time we can switch on. I'll just scroll down to show that none of this was filled out because we had generate with AI switched off. Okay, save again. And the save takes a second because we're making a bunch of AI calls. All right, so let's edit again. Still got our body. All right, so now we've got categories that, based off the title and body of this article, actually these match exactly what they were manually categorized on uclahealth.org. And this is without, I didn't modify the prompt. This is just straight out of the box. It knew exactly which concepts, which categories to apply. And then we've got just a brief AI summary here at the bottom. So how was this accomplished? Let's take a look at some ECA workflows. Oh no. This is the hardest part. Okay. So we've got one workflow that I've set up in ECA. So ECA is event, condition, action. So this is kind of a way, a no-code solution to implement complex logic on your Drupal site. So the way that it works is you set up these models, and then you configure each model with events, conditions, and actions to do specific tasks. So this one generates terms and a summary for articles. And it works on the pre-save content entity event. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like. Okay, so the ECA here is represented with different shapes. So the E, the event, is this circle. And so it just represents the event of when the article node is saved. The conditions are represented by the lines that connect the shapes. So this one is checking that generate with AI field is switched on. If it's not, nothing after this arrow happens. But if it is, the next thing that happens is it tries to generate the categories. So this is actually just calling an automator that I set up for each of these fields. So we've already kind of looked at how that works. So you've got your drop down for automators here. So I've got one for categories, one for concepts. So this generates the categories, this generates the concepts, and we have another condition that checks if the body has a value. And if it does, we grab that value, which this action just comes stock with ECA, just grabbing a field value. And then this one comes with the AI module. So this is generate the AI summary. So you can see here, We're outside of automators now. We're just in ECA. We've got a connection to GPT-4 Mini. We've got the token input that was set up here in, so here we've got this body hyphen value is our token that we're getting from the body field. So we're passing that along, and then we're returning a token called AI summary. Right? And then once we've got that, we just set the AI summary field to that value. And I guess one thing I did not mention, if we scroll down here, this is where you can summarize the text in 200 characters or less for a general healthcare audience, and then you give it the text that you want it to summarize. I had this set to emulate Steve Urkel's speech patterns before, but it wasn't as good of quality of results, so I just went with something a little more boilerplate. So yeah, that's how ECA is working behind the scenes to kind of fill multiple fields at the same time based on logic that we have set up here. No code was needed to produce anything in this demo. This was all super quick and easy to set up. And these are just kind of some ideas to get the whole thing flowing around, improving the editorial experience so that we can have our editors focused on, generating high quality content. Let's see here. I think I do have one more slide, but I don't know how to operate it. I mean, I think that's it. Should we open it up for questions at this point?
We have time for like a question or two, and then we're going to go for a break. So.
Anybody?
All right. Anybody have any questions? So, yeah. Just one right
So
here.
with this, a lot of stuff happens on DrupalCon. Is there any way to integrate this with content moderation so that way we can enforce that the AI-generated content is reviewed by a human?
100%, yeah. So the content moderation you can do even in ECA. I don't have content moderation enabled on this site because it's just a super simple demo site. But yes, you can do that out of the box, also with no code. Or you could implement automators with a plugin. So you can get super, in the weeds there and have all kinds of custom logic that decide. You can even have like an AJAX call. So instead of having our switch like get read on the node submit, you could, when you switch the switch, there could be an AJAX call that talks to your automator plugin, so you could have like immediate feedback, kind of like we were seeing with the that first contrib module for the alt tag.
Can be done this in bulk operations?
Yep, it does have a setting for bulk operations. That ships with automators out of the box. It does support bulk operations.
Okay. I'm sure you could ask Chris if you see him out here, if you have more questions. But
Sure.
thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
And we'll take a 10-minute break, so we'll see you back here about 5 till. So, thank you.